Okay, the participants to hear the first few slides. What I'll do is just do a quick verbal update of them rather than running through those slides. Just like to welcome you all here today, and sorry about that complication. The first couple of slides, I just went over what SAICM is, what is the strategic approach to international chemicals management. And we just really want to emphasize that it's a global policy framework that is voluntary and broad in scope. It covers any sound management of chemicals by 2020 to protect human health and the environment. We believe that SAICM aims to coordinate, catalyze, and facilitate actions towards sound management of chemicals. And this goal, of course, was reinforced at Rio+20 in June 2012. So we do feel there's a lot of strength behind that. I know a number of you on the call today and a number of you in your various regions have participated in a lot of SAICM activities since ICCM 3. There are a number of core actions that have taken place. We, as a Secretariat, coordinate activities on the emerging policy issues, and these include lead in paint, chemicals and products, nanotechnology, hazardous substances in the life cycle of electronics, which is sometimes referred to as e-waste, as well as endocrine disrupting chemicals. We've also supported the Quick Start program, its associated projects, and its administration. Coordinated activities on a number of actions identified in the Global Plan of Action, and have organized 5 regional workshops since ICCM 3. So that's just a recap of what I started with, and now I'm moving to the open-ended working group. Okay, so the open-ended working group, its functions have been outlined by SAICM Resolution 2.6, which was adopted in 2009. And the aim of the open-ended working group is to review and prioritize proposals for new emerging policy issues, to continue work on existing emerging policy issues, to consider proposals for inclusion in the Global Plan of Action, to consider initiatives being undertaken and to address progress and gaps, to consider outcomes of regional meetings, to identify priority issues for the ICCM, and to undertake other activities as directed by the conference. We thought it was fairly important just to open with that slide today so that people are aware of what the functions of the open-ended working group are as we go into that meeting, and so that obviously, at the end of the day, the ICCM, the International Conference on Chemicals Management, that's scheduled in September 2015, is the decision-making body for SAICM itself, but the open-ended working group is sort of a preparatory session that will lead us there. So in terms of the meeting logistics, the conference will be held in Geneva. The dates are the 15th to the 17th of December, and the Sunday, December 14th, is a day that is scheduled for meetings, so you should intend to be there because there will be important opportunities for regional meetings, technical briefings, and other events scheduled for that Sunday. We expect about 360 participants at the meeting, and I would encourage any of you that haven't yet registered to please do so. There is a form on our website, and we would encourage you to make sure that you're actually registered for the meeting. Final travel arrangements are being made this week here at the SAICM Secretariat for those paid participants, and you should be hearing more about that if you haven't already as a paid participant. Most of the meeting documents are now available online in languages, and I will take you to the website later on in the presentation to walk you through that briefly. I want to point out that this will be an electronic meeting as per our standard practice in SAICM for a number of meetings now, and no paper copies of meeting documents will be available on site, so we would encourage you to download all meeting documents you require before you head out to the meeting. There will be internet wireless at the meeting itself, but we would encourage you to download as much as possible before you get there, and if you need to bring paper copies, to do that for your own use. I'll run over the schedule briefly here for the opening preparatory day. That is Sunday the 14th. Registrations will start from 8:30 a.m. There will be a bureau meeting from 10 a.m. till noon. There will be a technical briefing from noon till 3 p.m. We will go through the schedule of that in a few moments. Regional and other group meetings will follow the technical briefing from 3 till 6. And we have side events scheduled on the evening of Sunday from 6 till 7 or 7:30. And we'll run over the side event schedule a little bit later as well. The open-ended working group timetable. I just want to go through this very briefly. It'll look familiar to some of our previous meetings. There will be opportunities for regional groups to meet on every morning. The Monday morning, if we run through Monday, we will start with a brief opening ceremony at 10 a.m. We expect the opening ceremony to be fairly brief, so the content of the meeting could start as early as 10:15, 10:30. We will then move into plenary, and we expect to have plenary sessions from 10 till 1 and 3 till 6 daily as per standard UN practice. We expect to have 3 side events at lunch each day from 1:15 to 2:45. I will go over the side events a little bit later. Monday evening, we have a reception to be hosted by the government of Switzerland, very kindly. And then we have the possibility for contact groups on Monday evening and Tuesday evening written into the schedule here. We do hope to run the meeting in plenary. We do not hope to have any sessions going on in parallel to plenary. But we do expect there to be some need to have some smaller groups to be established to address some challenging issues during the meeting. This could be contact groups or other types of small groups. The Bureau is currently discussing how the week will flow in terms of contact groups. There is a general sense that there will possibly be a need for contact groups on the overall orientation and guidance, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail as we go through the agenda, and I'll bring it up again, and possibly on other issues that we'll go to as we move forward. As you'll see in the schedule, we currently only have contact groups scheduled for Monday and Tuesday evenings. We would prefer not to have any scheduled during the plenary. We also have a clear indication from our Bureau that there should only be a maximum of 2 contact groups running at one particular time. So in terms of the technical briefing, just to run over what those are, we just got off a call actually with our ICCM4 Bureau, and their clear message that I should relay to you, and as a Secretariat we will be relaying consistently to all groups we coordinate with, is the importance of the technical briefing. The importance of the technical briefing to share information, for delegates to ask questions and to gain clarity on a number of very important topics that will be in the meeting. We hope that this is an opportunity to clarify things ahead of time so that we can move forward more swiftly in the actual program of the meeting. So you'll see that 3 topics are proposed for the technical briefing. The first is the overall orientation and guidance towards the 2020 goal. The second is highly hazardous pesticides. And the third is the new proposed emerging policy issue on environmentally persistent pharmaceutical pollutants. So Part A, the orientation and guidance, relates to agenda item 3D, and I'll get into more details on that when we move through the agenda items. Part 2, highly hazardous pesticides, is agenda item 5C3, or 5C Part 2, and I'll get into that into the agenda item. And the environmentally persistent pharmaceuticals is agenda item 5B. Okay, so moving into the provisional agenda. The first three agenda items, first two are quite clear, standard UN agenda items that we hope to get through very swiftly on Monday morning. So it's the opening of the session as well as organizational matters. We expect opening remarks to be very slim. If they are to be done, they would be done by regional groupings. The President is encouraging any individual government or organization to not make any opening statements, and if they do feel a need to relay any information, it could be done through a paper process through the intranet process at the meeting. Agenda item 3, progress and gaps towards the achievement of the 2020 goal of sound management of chemicals, is the first substantive item on the agenda and a very important one for this session. So I take quite a number of slides to go through agenda item 3. You'll note also that that particular agenda item is covered, Part D of it is covered.
One moment, please. Brenda has an issue with her microphone again.
This is a test. Okay. Okay. Hello. All right, I'll just start in on agenda item 3. I can't emphasize enough the importance of agenda item 3. And you'll note that part of its agenda item, Part D, is on the agenda for the technical briefing on Sunday. Okay, so agenda item 3 has 4 sub-items. Part A, regional achievements, strengths, and challenges in the context of working towards the 2020 goal. Part B, progress in achieving the objectives of the strategic approach overarching policy strategy. Part C, implementation of the health sector strategy. And Part D, overall orientation and guidance on the 2020 goal. The main document for this agenda item is document 2/4, which is the overall orientation and guidance towards achieving the 2020 goal. The other relevant documents are listed here in the list, documents 2.3, document 2.8, the main meeting documents, and then there are a series of information documents that are available to participants in support of this agenda item. I'm going to slowly walk you through agenda items A, C to C on the slide, and then we will take a bit more time on agenda item Part D to go through the full context of that. So Part A, the regional achievements and challenges in the context of working towards the 2020 goal. There is a summary of the outcomes of the strategic approach regional priority setting workshops and resolutions adopted at regional meetings available to meeting participants as meeting document 2/3. And this is the first time that the Secretariat has attempted to take the series of regional meetings in the lead up to one of our international sessions and summarize them collectively. So we hope that participants will find that a useful piece to see some of the commonalities that came out of these regional meetings rather than having to deduce that themselves. You'll also see that there is a compilation of regional chemicals challenges been put together by the Secretariat. I don't believe that document's posted quite yet, but it will be very shortly, and that's information document 3. At this point in the meeting, regional focal points will be called upon to deliver oral reports to the working group on the achievements and the strengths and the challenges specific to their regions. As I said, this item is mostly for information, but then an opportunity for discussion will follow. Moving to Part B, there is a we're talking about progress in achieving the objectives of the strategic approach overarching policy strategy. The main document that we'll be working with there is Information Document 4. It is a second progress report for 2011 to 2013. This is a document that is actually for consideration of ICCM 4, but the Secretariat is making it available at this stage for the open-ended working group for information and discussion under this agenda item. There is also Information Document 5 available. It's an analysis from the IOMC on efforts done to implement the Global Plan of Action, and they have done an analysis of a series of 4 key issues in preparation for this agenda item. Once again, we hope to open this up for discussion and information, but we don't necessarily see any decisions being taken under this particular sub-item. Once we move away from item B, we move to item C, which is the implementation of the health sector strategy. In this, you will see that the World Health Organization has provided 2 papers. One of them is on the engagement of the health sector generally within the strategic approach from 2011 to 2013. That is document 2/8, and it's available in languages for participants. There's also a report on World Health Organization activities related to the implementation of the strategic approach. So that's Information Document 17. And we will be asking, the President will be asking the World Health Organization to open up a discussion or to review their documents before the discussion on the implementation of the health sector strategy is opened. Once again, we expect this to be an information item with discussion. Following items A through C, we will open up agenda item 3D, which is the overall orientation and guidance for achieving the 2020 goal, document 2/4. As I noted as we opened up agenda item 3, we do hope that items A through C will be kept into account and brought forward as necessary into any discussion on 3D and the path forward. I just want to take a few moments to explain where this agenda item comes from and how the document developed for it has come to be. Okay, so the document 2/4, the Bureau has guided the Secretariat in the development of the document, and that's been based on input received at regional meetings and through other stakeholder input opportunities. The document that's available to participants is expected to provide direction and identify approaches for SAICM stakeholders towards achieving the objectives by 2020, and it includes some concrete elements. We do expect this to be the strategic policy outcome of ICCM 4. So what it was designed to do, as requested by ICCM 3, was to actually consider what is success in 2020 in terms of sound chemicals management, and to look very frankly at where we stand today in 2014, 2015, and to really focus our actions towards 2020 to support the achievement of the 2020 goal. So it's a chance to reflect on where we've come so far, and a chance to consider where to focus our energies on, where to invest in terms of the SAICM context in moving forward to 2020. And for this agenda item, we expect the working group may wish to discuss the document and provide input into the overall orientation and guidance itself. Oops. I want to just point out a couple things about the document itself, and then we'll move on, because it is probably the critical document of the meeting to be reviewing, we just want to point out a few core bits of it. So this is document 2/4, and maybe it's a good time actually while we're here on top of this. In a moment I will open up on my screen the actual meeting documents. I'll just take a second for that to load up. So in the meantime, I will go back to it. Oops. Okay. If you go to the meeting document, you'll see that 6 core activity areas are identified moving towards 2020. And this is in paragraph 21 of document 2/4. That's a very critical paragraph for the actual orientation and guidance process. These activities have been identified, as we mentioned earlier, through input received at regional meetings, through the Bureau's guidance, and through stakeholder input we've received along the way. The 6 core areas in paragraph 21 include enhancing responsibility of all stakeholders, strengthening national legislative and regulatory frameworks, mainstreaming into the Sustainable Development Agenda, number 4, promoting actions on emerging policy issues, number 5, promoting information access and improving accessibility of information, and number 6, assessing progress towards the 2020 goal. Guidance and action points are set out per activity area in the document as you go through it. This document aims to be forward-looking. It starts out with a reflection on past experiences and quickly moves into being forward-looking. It also discusses and encourages optimization of resources in the implementation of the strategic approach. The discussion at the working group is expected to be centered around the structure of the overall orientation and guidance, its comprehensiveness, whether there are omissions or gaps from the document, any conclusions or recommendations, and how it could be taken forward to ICCM4. So I'd really encourage you to go through this document in detail and review some of those principles, the structure of it, the comprehensiveness, the omissions and gaps, and whether any further conclusions or recommendations are required. As noted, it is quite possible this could go to a contact group. That is the early indication we're getting from our Bureau. And the expectation is that the contact group would discuss these types of points of the document itself. Okay, so that's a critical agenda point. I have a few more to go through before I open up the floor for questions. Agenda item number 4 is regarding the Sustainable Development Goals and sound management of chemicals beyond 2020. There are 2 meeting documents available to support this agenda item. Document 2.9, which is regarding the Sustainable Development Goals, and document 2.5, which is the United Nations Environmental Assembly Resolution on Chemicals and Waste. The Resolution 1/5 emphasizes that the sound management of chemicals and waste is an essential and integral cross-cutting element of sustainable development and is of great relevance to the Sustainable Development Agenda. As you know, the Sustainable Development Goals is a process that's ongoing in New York, and there are expected to be some developments on this issue from the Secretary General in early December that will also be forwarded along for information of participants once we actually have the information. So that could actually be a verbal update to participants at the OEWG, or it could be a last-minute IMF document if the document comes forward early enough to us. What we expect at the OEWG itself is a discussion on 2 items. How the issue, what we expect at OEWG2 is a discussion on Sustainable Development Goals and how that will be considered in moving forward and the importance of that in moving forward, how our program fits into this larger discussion and where it might fit in, where SAICM could help serve this process. The second part is on sound management of chemicals beyond 2020. As you know, the SAICM mandate itself only goes until 2020 for the moment. And the Bureau has suggested that at the open-ended working group, a discussion might take place to think about how sound management of chemicals beyond 2020 is considered by the ICCM and what preparations might be made to support such a discussion in moving forward. Agenda item 5 is regarding emerging policy issues and other items of concern. There are 3 sub-items here: reports on progress on the existing emerging policy issue, Part B, new proposed emerging policy issue, and Part C, other issues of concern. We'll walk through each part here just to simplify for you. So Part A, report on progress on emerging policy issues. You'll see that document 2/6 is available for meeting participants. It's the overall summary of the emerging policy issues prepared by the Secretariat, but the input, of course, comes from many of the IONC organizations that have led this work. You'll note that the 5 emerging policy issues are listed here. I went over them earlier, so I won't walk you through them again. But the working group essentially is to review progress on each of these issues. And you'll note that there is the overall summary, but there are a series of information documents to support the agenda items, or the individual parts. So there is INF 9 on lead and paint. There are INF 10 and 11 regarding chemicals and products, etc. The working group may propose strategies to foster enhanced coordination, collaboration, and cooperation amongst relevant stakeholders on this issue, and they may consider recommendations on these issues for ICCM4 as necessary to achieve progress on the 2020 goal. I just want to take note that this progress aspect on emerging policy issues is also linked to agenda item 3D, the overall orientation and guidance, as one of the proposed actions under the orientation and guidance is to continue actions on emerging policy issues and moving forward. In going through this agenda item through the 5 areas, we do expect the President to invite an oral report from the respective IONC leads on each of the emerging policy issues, and we do expect an opportunity for limited discussion on all 5 of the emerging policy issues in the mix. We then go to item 5B, which is the new proposed emerging policy issue for consideration by ICCM4, which is environmentally persistent pharmaceutical pollutants. It's a proposal from Peru, Uruguay, and the International Society of Doctors for the Environment. There are 2 meeting documents available, document 2/7, which is a summary of the issue and the process from the Secretariat, and there's information document 15, which is the actual nomination dossier as submitted by the proponents of the issue, Peru, Uruguay, and the International Society for Doctors for the Environment. You'll notice there's an opportunity for discussion on this item at the technical briefing on Sunday from 2 till 3, and we'd highly encourage you to attend this briefing to get clarity from the proponents of this issue and to help support a more informed discussion in the OEWG itself. At the end of the day, the working group is to review this issue and consider proposing it for the agenda for ICCM4. So that's its role in terms of this agenda item. Moving to agenda item 5C, we have other issues of concern. There are 2 parts here. There is part 1, the perfluorinated chemicals, and part 2, highly hazardous pesticides. So, part 1, the perfluorinated chemicals, in document 2/6. Part 4 does address other issues of concern, and perfluorinated chemicals are addressed here, and there is an update within from the various IONC organizations in that document itself. And there's also the second part to this, the highly hazardous pesticides. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the UN has prepared document 2/10 on highly hazardous pesticides for the information of meeting participants. And you'll recall that highly hazardous pesticides were raised as a high priority issue towards the end of ICCM 3 and identified at a number of the regional meetings as important. So that's why this issue has been taken up and put it on the agenda here under other issues. In the context of what to do in moving forward, the working group is to review progress on and consider ways in which cooperation can be undertaken to achieve progress in these areas. We have the last two substantive items here left. Agenda item 6, which is the planned activities and draft budget of the Secretariat. There is a document prepared by the Secretariat available, which is document 2/12. From what I understand, it is a document that's still not on the web, but you can expect it, an advanced version of it very shortly to be posted. It should be up this week. We apologize for the delay on that item. The report goes through reporting back of the activities of the Secretariat for 2013 to 15. And also provides initial budget information for 2016 to 20. Really, it is an information item on the agenda. The open-ended working group may wish to take note of this budget information. The budget will be further elaborated for the ICCM4, and it will be further elaborated based on the activities contained in the overall orientation and guidance. So this is an information item for the open-ended working group to take note of and perhaps provide feedback on any items that they take note of, but it's something for the ICCM to consider. And the final substantive item on the agenda is agenda item 7, preparations for ICCM4. And there is a document on that available for participants, document 2/11. For the moment, I'd just like to say that it is tentatively scheduled for the 28th of September to the 2nd of October in 2015 here in Geneva. And what the open-ended working group is asked is to provide guidance to the Bureau on priority issues for inclusion on the ICCM4 agenda. There are a couple of other closing agenda item points, which include other items where people are welcome to bring forward other items to the meeting, as well as the adoption of the report and the closure of the meeting. We do anticipate that the meeting will close by 6 p.m. on Wednesday the 17th, and from what I understand, the conference service facilities are actually only available to us until 7 p.m. on the 17th, so we do expect closure to happen on time. Just as we summarize here in closing and as we head towards the meeting itself, there really are only 5 years left before reaching the 2020 milestone of SAICM. So it's a very important and critical time as we move forward. ICCM4 in 2015 will be a major decision-making body for the SAICM program and for implementation of SAICM. So the open-ended working group we're faced with right now is a very key preparatory step for us in moving forward. As we spent a lot of time reviewing this, the orientation and guidance process is critical for setting the priorities and action to 2020. And the input we receive on this at the open-ended working group will certainly be necessary in order to help us move this issue forward to ICCM4. And it's very critical in supporting the efforts of SAICM implementation. And just in closing the presentation, we like to close on the statement that was made by the ICCM3 president as she closed off the high-level dialogue at ICCM3, that commitment, cooperation, awareness, and ownership among all stakeholders will be a key to achieving the future we want for sound management of chemicals. I think it's a very fitting quote here for SAICM as it opens up a community of players and working in a multi-sectoral and a multi-stakeholder environment. Okay, so on that note, I'd just like to open up the floor for questions and comments from any of the participants, but I'll pass the microphone over to Dan to do that. Thank you.